Hey folks, I want to do just a quick little, um, not demonstration, but just a quick little lesson on drawing electric circuit diagrams so that you can go ahead and do your first lab on series circuits today. We're just going to go through this real fast, and drawing these diagrams is real simple, but you need to know the symbols. So first thing is you have to remember that an electric circuit forms a continuous loop, so it's a complete loop. Yes. It's always going to start at the negative battery terminal and finish at the positive, so that it forms a complete loop so the electrons can move all the way through the wire. All right, the symbols that we're going to use for a wire, the symbol is simply a line, and that line connects each of the other components of the symbol of the circuit. Sorry, light bulb. A couple of different ways you can draw it. You can draw it like this. Right, so you can draw a light bulb like this, where it looks like a light bulb, or probably a simpler way to do it, just to draw a circle and put either. I'm going to try that one again. Let's draw that one more time. You just draw a circle with either like a little, almost like a sine wave in it, or even simpler, put a little X in it. Either one of those is okay, right? I kind of like this one or this one. So, and it really doesn't matter which one you draw, but you need to be familiar that all of those mean light bulbs, right? A battery is basically just a long line followed by a short line. The long line represents the positive charge. You don't have to draw the positive sign there. And the small one represents the negative terminal. Right, and then of course the lines on either side are just the wires connecting the battery. So the battery itself really is just long line, short line, and then you connect the lines to it. Right, a voltmeter is simply a meter that reads the voltage of a device, of a component, and it's real simple. It's just the letter V with a circle around it, and then you have the wires coming off of that. Has to be a voltmeter has to be placed in a specific way in a circuit, which we'll talk about here in just a few minutes. Right, but the symbol itself is just a circle with a V. An ammeter is a meter that measures amps or current, and it is an A with a circle around it. It too has to be placed a certain way in a circuit that we'll talk about here in a few minutes. Okay, a resistor is just a device. It's a component in the circuit that creates resistance, and by creating the resistance, you can control how much current goes in there. And a resistor is basically just a bunch of kind of wiggly lines like that, back and forth, and usually above it you would write like 20 ohms to represent the resistance of that resistor. Right, a fuse can be written a couple of different ways, but mainly it's usually kind of written, it's kind of drawn just kind of as like a small wire there. So this would be a wire, this would be the wire, and right here is the fuse. And you just draw kind of like that. Kind of what a fuse is just a very small, thin wire that'll get too hot and break if the current gets too big. So the fuses will be kind of drawn like that. We're not going to use fuses a whole lot, but we'll talk about them towards the end of this unit. Okay, and then a switch is obviously a part of that allows you to turn it on and off. And generally a switch is drawn like this. Again, this is my wire, and then you have two terminals, and then the switch is kind of drawn like that. This would be an open switch, and then the closed switch would be connected. And this would be a closed switch. In other words, this would be off, and this would be on if it was connected to a circuit and maybe a light bulb or something. All right, so now let's look at just putting one together. And we're just going to draw one. We're going to draw a ton of these as we go along. So it's not a huge, right now we're just going to draw simple one. So it says we're going to draw a circuit diagram with a 9-volt battery connected in series. Okay, those are the first types of circuits we're going to draw. Okay, and we'll get back to that in just a second. With a light bulb, a 30 ohm resistor, and a switch. Okay, also show a voltmeter measuring the voltage across the resistor and an ammeter measuring the current coming from the battery. All right, so let's just draw the basic circuit first. Okay, when we say something's in series, it means one thing is connected after the other, after the other, after the other, and there's no place for the current to split off. There's no junctions where electricity goes left and right or up or down or something like that. All right, so we'll start off with the battery, and I'm going to draw a long line, short line, and that's my battery. And we'll just off to the side here write 9 volts. Okay. And when we draw these things, we tend to like to draw them in a nice compact little square or rectangle. All right, so the first one, we want a light bulb. So we're going to draw a light bulb, which was just that with, let's just do the X one. All right. And then we're going to draw the resistor. Now you don't have to draw them on, one at the top, one on the side, but it makes our life a little bit easier because you have a little bit of room for each one. And then we're going to draw the switch, and we'll draw the switch as being open right now. It doesn't matter which way you draw it. All right, and so there's our basic circuit. Right, and also with the resistor, we'd write 30 ohms next to that just to indicate that that's a 30 ohm resistor. Okay, so that's our basic circuit. Actually, I'm going to erase that real fast because I want to be able to draw. We'll draw here 30 ohms right there. All right, now let's draw the voltage and the voltmeter and the ammeter here. Right, so when you connect the voltmeter, you're going to find out, and you're going to see this in your lab, but the voltmeter has 2 probes. One's positive, one's negative. And you basically put the probes on either side of what you're measuring. And since we're measuring the voltage across the resistor, we're going to put one of the little voltage probes here. I'm going to do this in a different color. One of the voltage probes here, one of the voltage probes here. And the voltmeter is connected in between. Right? And that's our V with a circle around it. And that's how we would measure our voltmeter. This type of connection is known as a parallel connection. You can kind of see it because its path is kind of parallel to the resistor's path, right? And so we always connect voltmeters in parallel to what we're measuring, right? And then the other thing we wanted to measure is draw an ammeter with the current coming out of the battery. Okay, well, so the current coming out of the battery always starts at the negative because the electrons flow around. So we would just draw an ammeter, and ammeters always are drawn in series, so they're just part of the circuit. So we would draw right here, we would just draw a little circle and put an A, and there would be our ammeter. And we were measuring the current right here. If we wanted to measure the current coming out of the light bulb, we would just draw the same thing up here. All right, so now I want y'all to go back to E-class and take a look at this lab. You're going to go to the PhET website and you're going to do a series circuit lab. You're going to construct a couple of circuits on the PhET site and you're going to sketch them with symbols like this, and then you're going to hopefully see some connections that we're going to make that we will talk about in our notes tomorrow. All right, so we'll see you tomorrow.